Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shae. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multifaceted impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. Oh my God, today's episode is going to light up your soul and activate your mind. I got to sit down with the amazing Kim Fitzpatrick, who is a mama of two incredible humans, a dog mom, a wife, entrepreneur, published author, life and leadership coach, podcaster, morning routine junkie, and lover of people. Kim is the founder of two thriving businesses, Fitz Life, which is a social media company and the heart behind a massive community that focuses on coaching, health, wellness, and business leadership. The second is Legacy by Kim, which is a unique mission-driven company with products and resources to help you elevate your life, create more time in your day, and create more joy. Kim is the co-host of the Fitz Life Unfiltered podcast, a real, raw, and juicy place to learn and grow. She not only understands how to influence, mentor, and lead, Kim also prides herself on servant leadership. She is incredibly passionate about empowering others to reach their full potential, live limitlessly, and to live their best life physically, mentally, and financially. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Kim is on the Freedom CEO podcast today. Like, how excited am I to have you here?
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love you, Shae. And I also love huge conversations with incredible women that are doing big things. And it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Well, I know how busy you are, and it's wild actually, because we've both known of each other for a long time. And it's nuts that I'm from Oakville, you're in Burlington. I lived in Toronto, but we never actually crossed paths physically till you came this past year to Costa Rica, which was so incredible. And you were here on a yoga retreat, wellness retreat. And obviously, you know, I think most people would say this whenever they meet you, they feel like they've known you forever. That's just like the love that you give, it exudes. Doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing in your life, what you're not doing in your life. You know, you just have so much love that you always give. And I'm so grateful that we got a chance to actually meet in person. How cool.
Yeah, I love that. I think what's so neat, like we both grew up in Oakville. We ran in like very similar circles, you know, like it's so fun. It's such a small world. And I totally agree. Like, and it was such a like happenstance that where I think I was laying on the pool chair and then Shae just like walks across through the water, like walking on water. I was like, Shae! It was amazing. It was like just meant to be. And I feel like that with you too, you know, like there's a really high vibe. There's very much a frequency with your energy, Shae. And I just think like attracts like, energies attract energies. You know, we orbit in the same, vibe. And it's just amazing. I think it's powerful when you step into that because who you bring into your life at the right time, the right season is, I think, all on purpose. It's all very divine.
Totally. Well, and I have to say, you know, I wasn't going to talk about this till later, but since you brought up when Kim was lying out on the lounger at the pool, for the yoga retreat, she was there for yoga. It's where in Costa Rica, I love to bar up and like do my work during the day. It's kind of like Zen, but also a bit of the hustle. It's like the most hustle you're going to get in Costa Rica is that boat retreat, right? So, you know, and of course they like, yes, I walking across the water, coming over, seeing Kim. And what is she doing? She is working on her journal. Look what I got. Finally. So for those of you guys listening, I am holding the Be Her Now journal, which is also really, it's more than a journal. It is your gratitude practice. It is your vision carrier as opposed to just like a holder, right? Like this is a daily coming back inwards and reaffirming that which we are working towards and anchoring into like why we are here. And gratitude practice that morning, that part of the morning is so important for me. And I'm obsessed with it. All things around my routine. I'm very guarded with my mornings. And those of you who've been with me for a while know that. And Kim Fitzpatrick is the same way. And I'm going to put this in the show notes. So wherever you're tuning in from, look in the notes, click in the link, because you can get her journal, which I'm like leveling up from mine. One day I'm going to come out with mine though. I think I told you that.
Yes.
It's been part of my heart journey for a while as well. Just as you know, I'm sure this was part of it, is that I've had so many different gratitude journals over the years, from like a 5-minute journal to more one that's around meditation and all of these different journals. And there's always like something missing. And you're like, oh, I just wish it had this, or I just wish it had that. And if it had these things, it would be, is there something as perfect? No, because we're always evolving. And I'm sure even now for you in creating this, and I noticed actually in the beginning, it said first edition, which implies there's going to be a second and a third, because we're always evolving. And as we do that, I shouldn't say always, most people are not always evolving, right? Like a lot of people plateau through life, but those of us who are seekers of growth, that's part of it. There's this change. So I can't wait to see what edition 5 is going to look like.
Well, I have to be honest too, Shae, and thank you so much for bringing that up, because, I too was searching for this perfect, if you will, insert quotation marks too, because of what I needed, right? Like I wanted to pull my vision into my action, right? And if I want to act as my future self, if I want to act in accordance with this higher level, higher version, not better, but in a different energy, then I need to be reminded of her each day. And I couldn't find that in anything. It truly is my life's work. Is embodied in this journal, in this heart map, in this tool. And, I think that's what I would do differently, is I would have called it your heart map, because that's what it is. So that will be it will be branded as heart map with our next iteration. But, it really is more than a journal. And it's just powerful. And I think that's, you hit the nail on the head. I think, I'm learning to fall back in love with my mornings. I had my mornings on lockdown, Shae. Like they were unstoppable, phenomenal. Like I am my best, before like 6 a.m. Like I am my best before the world needs me. Yes. And if I'm honest with you, my whole world got rocked when Jamie had his cardiac arrest. And it shook me really hard. So I will say this journal also was birthed through healing and just like fighting for my new normal after such a huge T trauma. And for those listening, Jamie, my husband, he is totally fine and healthy and great. And I'm so grateful for that. And from there, I had to rebuild me, as I was navigating through this. And part of that was, what is my morning routine going to look like? What's my habit look like? And I love that you said we're constantly evolving, because the habit that served me before that day isn't the habit that pulled me to who I am today. So this journal has been birthed through, real, an eruption in normal status quo to like pull me out into this like even more actualized version, of me.
So, because obviously that is that's such a pivotal, monumental moment in not just your life, like you're a mom of 2, you've got your kids to also think about. It's also going to be one of the most monumental moments for your kids' lives, I'm sure, like in 10 years looking back as well, right? And of course, Jamie, who's a rock star, and like, thank God that he still has work for him to do here on this earth, right? Amen. And that he's here with you. Yes. obviously when things like this happen in life, for most people, they go, yeah, of course, things changed, right? Like most people will say maybe they valued life more. They stopped taking life so seriously. They started to be in the moment, enjoy the now. But you talk about habits and you talk about what life looked like pre that date with Jamie's heart attack to now. What changes for you were like fundamental that you said, like, this is it. From here on out, I'm making these habit changes that, as you just said, have brought you into the woman you are, and even in creating powerful tools like the Be Her Now journal.
I love this question. So, and I just want to insert like a disclaimer, like just in case this is triggering for anyone that has walked through that. I know I always want to do a bit of a disclaimer that, we are so grateful and we are in chance of survival, and that's not everybody's story. So I just want to honor anyone that's listening that hasn't had this experience, and just acknowledge that, we're also in the 1% that Jamie had no brain damage. So our life could have been incredibly different. He could have survived that and not even had any quality of life. So again, we're just multiply grateful. So to that end, I think for me, what's changed the most, Shae, is that I really learned that I lived my life in victim. And I always thought, if for example, I would like see somebody else that's taking really great care of themselves, or they would like be really doing something, I would almost have that like must be nice mentality. I don't have time for that. I remember when I was giving CPR, I was the one that Tessa was first responder. She came and got me. I was the one who did CPR for 8 minutes. And I remember the conversation that I had negotiating with God. And, my hands were on my husband. I was pumping and I just wasn't stopping. And 911 was there listening to the whole thing. But I had a full conversation with, the big guy upstairs, universe source, whoever that is that aligns with you. And I just truly was like, I will never be so petty. I will not fight. I will not start arguments. I will stop doubting myself. I will love my body. I will not have body dysmorphia. I will, like, if anything that came out that I thought was like God's source, the universe was blocking me from like my greater self, I said, I will stop all these things. I claimed these things. I said, I will give you foot rubs every day. I will give you back tickles. Like, I won't fight with you anymore. Like, I won't start fights. I will be more compassionate. I will have more patience. Right. And it's like I did this like sacred contract to negotiate saving one of the biggest parts of my life. Totally. And that was profound, like it was kind of like, hey, are you going to keep that contract you made? And how are you going to do that? Because for me, I have had extreme trauma. I was diagnosed with clinical PTSD, anxiety disorder from childhood, and things I went through, grief, lost my mom, and multiple things that happened to me in certain seasons in my childhood. And a lot of that defined me for a really long time. And I think what happened in those moments, Shae, is I just realized like this life is not promised. And that sounds so cliche. And I know people are like, babies don't keep, they grow up so fast. Like, enjoy the stages while you're like, I'm not sleeping and you're in the trenches and the throes, but this life isn't promised. And I think what it made me realize is, number one, I've wasted a lot of time caring about what other people think about me. Number two, I wasted a lot of time doubting my essence of my energy, my strength. I spent a lot of time thinking that my worth was dictated by my productivity. I remember, I always say, like, I built my first 2 businesses with a penis. Like, it was like all masculine energy. Like, no, I did. I was like,
sorry, mom. My mom's totally gonna listen to this and be like, just say penis.
Yes, Mom. I'm sorry. I feel like that's more respectful than the other word. So it's like, and I'm like, but I did. And I thought I had to be so masculine, right? I thought I had to do work harder, hustle, no breaks, and that's what changed. It was like, whoa, there's a duality. You can do both, you can live and reintegrate. So to be honest, Shae, what's happened because of this like capital T trauma layered on capital T traumas, what my therapist and my teams told me and shown me and my coaches, my executive coaches, like I have a village, I'm reintegrating with life as someone. And I think, you know, there won't be a lot of people that understand that, but for people that have gone through traumatic situations, you reintegrate with life. So that's what's happening. I'm like, I was walking back from the gym. I was in Mexico the other day and I started just bawling. I was so happy. I was in a state of euphoria and I got a lump in my throat and I just started like, I just like surrendered up. I put my hands up and I was like, I'm here. I'm feeling this. I'm open. Like I'm here. And that's what's changed. It's just this knowing that we are so much bigger than our problems. We are so much bigger than our worry. We are so much bigger than our to-do list. We are so much bigger than everything. Nothing's more important than your family, than living your life on your terms, you know, removing toxic relationships that are filled with performative fakeness. Like there is no time for things that are not in alignment with you and that are unauthentic. And I say, that's my biggest takeaway.
You know, it's interesting in hearing what you've shared over the past few minutes. You've said the word time multiple times, no pun intended. And when we look at how many hours we all get in a day, it's what makes us all equal. No matter how much money you have, and I've said this before, until Elon Musk figures out how to actually implement the time travel, he's got as many hours in the day as you and I do. And they're precious. And as you said, this time we have today was not guaranteed. Today was a gift. Tomorrow, if we wake up and we think, because we're very robotic like that, right? We see the sun go down, we see it come up, and we think that every day that's just going to happen. You and your family experienced something that jeopardized that and actually had the ability to take that away. And so your perspective on now moving forward, what you actually give your time to, what you are investing your time in, that's what it is. It's an investment. You can't get it back. This conversation that we're having, I don't take it lightly because I know how busy you are and you won't be able to get this hour back in your life. And when you start seeing time as precious and really an investment and what you're going to get your return on, where's the value in how you're spending your time? You talked about people in your family. You know, nothing's more important than spending time with your family and the people that you love. Being out of toxic relationships. This all encompasses around time. And when we really start seeing that as a gift and that we can actually become more productive by choosing wisely how we invest our time and how we guard our time too. That changes absolutely everything. And so I can only imagine the changes that you guys have made, right? Like in your life around what you decide to say yes to and what you say no to. And I say that often, that whatever you're saying yes to means you're saying no to something else. And it doesn't need to just be around time. If I'm saying yes to that second or third or fourth, maybe glass of wine, that means I'm saying no to a really epic workout the next morning that serves my body, right? My mind, my soul, everything. So what you're trading your time for versus investing in. And I think of you now, and I want to go back a little bit too, but I would love to know, like right now, and I know you're the same way in this, that life should be about doing things that give you like a royal fuck yes. And if it's not a yes, then it's an absolute fuck no.
Right. 100%.
For that reason, it's like, if it doesn't light you up, if it's not in alignment with you, and, and I'm actually starting to really unlove that word alignment because it's so kitschy these days. It's being thrown around so much that I think some people are like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what does it even mean to resonate with you? What does that even mean to be in alignment with you? Rather than me maybe answer that on my side, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Like, break it down.
Yeah.
Around that, because it's such a it's become a cliche term, I really think.
Yeah. Well, see, I disagree. I think the reason why I think the reason why it's become a kitschy term is because people don't know what the fuck it means. Because they're so far out of alignment that they have no idea what a feeling in alignment feels. So here, let me give you some perspective. I am an anxiety warrior. It's not anything that defines me, but it's something that passes through me. And when I'm out of alignment, guess what comes? My anxiety. Yeah. My anxiety is a fuck, something's wrong. My entire childhood, like my anxiety was bad, like, right? Because not entire, but for parts of it, when things are disruptive and out of alignment, your body keeps score.
Right. Yeah.
I want you to think about alignment. We talked about Shae, like even some of the stuff you've experienced lately. I'm like, interesting. Wonder what's going on for you, because the body keeps score. And that is alignment. So when you think about alignment, I think about my spine being in neutral. I think about my emotions being in neutral. And when I think of alignment, I think of flow. And when I think of flow, think about, I mean, I've only ever had this happen a couple times in my life because I don't actually like running. But you know, when you have a runner's high and everything feels like your body is just in this beautiful state, like you don't even realize your legs are moving and your arms moving and you're just like, that is flow state. So when I sit down to work and serve and I'm like in my state of like truly just like aligning with people and I'm impacting and I'm servicing and I'm like here, like I get off those calls euphoric. That's alignment. And that's what I love. I teach people on how to feel what alignment feels like. I teach people on who you are because it's actually your essence, Shae. And I think a lot of people are so afraid of who they are because they're afraid of what other people might think. They're afraid of what other people might say. They're afraid that you're too much, too big, too bright, too bold, all the things I was freaking told. And now I'm like, here's some fucking sunglasses because this is about to just get lit up. Like, you know, and that makes other people uncomfortable. Like it makes people uncomfortable when there are people that are walking in their skin and they're happy and they're, you know, and then they must think, well, there must be something going on. She can't be that happy with her partner. Look at like, and then all the rumors start. So it's just like, it's insane to me. People trying to debunk someone living in flow instead of working their asses off to get there. So when someone says to me, well, I don't really believe in that. I don't believe in that. I'm like, well, I hear you and I appreciate that. And I'm listening, but I get curious about that because part of me wonders whether or not they just haven't felt that. You know, it's kind of like Shae, I loved your analogy or your perspective of having that fourth glass of wine or that third glass of wine, knowing what that would cost you. I think a lot of people don't understand what feeling good actually feels like because we have set our temperature. Our temperature is like our lowest baseline habit, which is sabotage. It is low vibration. It is numbing. It is buffering, right? Like I rarely, if ever, drink anymore, you know, and the clearer I am, like I actually have like distaste for things because I'm actually not even operating in that dimension anymore. And that goes whoosh right over some people's heads because they're like, I don't understand that. You know, like I can have a conversation with someone in my family who's like, I don't even understand what words you're using.
Yeah.
When I'm like, you know, you're really not trauma informed, you know, things. And they're like, I don't even understand what you're meaning. And you're like, you're so stuck in this. This is how it goes. This is the box I live in. This is what society teaches me. We're in this spell.
Totally.
And alignment, as kitschy as it could be, is so far from people's reach that it scares them more than it inspires them.
Well, and it goes back to, you know, even what I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, that the majority of people are in the plateau, right? And it's why it's the average, right? Your average person living a decent and an okay life, like they live a pretty good life. They think they're a pretty good person. They go to work, they come home, they sit on the couch, they make dinner, they wake up, they go and they do the same thing again, over and over again, you know? And it's people that are, when you don't have this hunger for life to truly be living rather than existing. And that's the plateau. The plateau is just existing. You're going through the mundane. And I've said it oftentimes before that people are comfortable eating crumbs off the floor because it's easy. It's right in front of them. Yet if they would make the slightest effort to stand up a little bit, they'd realize that the steak is waiting for them on the top of the table. But so many people are afraid to look up. They're afraid to try. They're afraid to stand up, right? And so what's easier is to stay low, is to stay to say safe. When yet for me, for somebody like you look at that person, you go, it's actually what's killing you. It's actually what's like quenching your spirit. It's quenching your potential. It's quenching why you are here. We all have a purpose, and there's some people that look at yourself, maybe even look at me, and they go, yeah, I wish I knew. I wish I could be like that, or I wish I could do that. Meanwhile, you can. Everything in life that is worth it is on the other side of hard. And that comes with effort, right? It comes with that effort. And I mean, you've not always been like this. Like, I know you were in corporate before, right? Like before you made this jump into entrepreneurship. And it's not to say that you have to be an entrepreneur in order to feel lit up in life and in order to be living what I consider an extraordinary life, right? Like not in the average and operating at these higher levels. But a lot of your story and your journey of where you are today, this growth, this evolvement, this desire and thirst to continue to be like a lifelong student of yourself. Yeah. And therefore a teacher for others has come through entrepreneurship, correct?
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, I've been a leader my whole life. So I was the corporate employee that was initiating culture change. I was the one that was recommending Robin Sharma, all these books, and I will be honest, I worked in the field of gerontology, and I was so grateful to be able to work within companies that believed so much in personal growth and development. I'm so grateful because that set me against everything, right? I worked in retirement home living that had, funding for, expertise, Disney course, like all these things, like, exceptional service. So I was always one of those professionals that was seeking to be better, that was bringing, hey, this is a great podcast you should be listening to. Like when I look back at my Facebook memories that came up, I would be putting like Brendon Bouchard's quotes up like 10 years ago. So if I'm honest with you, was anyone shocked when I started really exploding into entrepreneurship and or dabbling at first and then starting to move forward into explosion, I can say now. But no one was shocked because it's always kind of been in my DNA. I'm an athlete. I've been a part of a team. Like I've always been a part of that. I love learning. I love growth. I've never stayed status, but I do have a really cool analogy. I actually just thought so interesting. You talked about like so many people eat the crumbs off the floor, but there was a study done on fleas and they put fleas in a jar for 3 days. And then they also cast it out like the same point. They're like, you put fleas in a jar, and then they flash to like a group of students, right? In a college or in a university. Hey, I had 9 years of post-secondary education, multiple degrees, diplomas, honor. Like I'm not knocking any of it. I love it all. I was that person with the cap on. So I love it. But in this analogy, they were showing the fleas, they flashed to the students, 12 years, right? Think about that. Think about how many years of school you've been in, right? It's this conditioning. And then you never get past that. You never go out of that. And then they took the jar off the lid of the fleas and they only ever stayed within that jar. They never left because we are conditioned to be jarred, lid tight. This is how you do this. This is what you do. This is when you go to, like when I went to college, there was very, very small amount of professions that were available. Totally. Like I'm 42, but now it feels like a geriatric, like if you think about it, right? Like compared to like the young 100%. Age, the new age, right? Where it's like, you can do anything, you can be an entrepreneur, you can build, right? Like I still had a dial-up computer. Like I didn't even have a cell phone. Thank goodness. There was no social media in my college days, but so just that analogy of like, was I always this way? Was I a leader? Yes, Shae, but I was also a follower and I was also scared. I was also scared of, will I get in trouble? Right? Like I'd have someone be like, oh, come to my office. I'm, oh my gosh, am I in trouble? What did I do wrong? But that's conditioning from my past. So I had to really break away from that. I've had to really like, like Shae, I've had to do so much unlearning. And I don't know whether people are ready for that because they're still stuck in a lot of those old relationships that keep them small too.
So you bring up a really, I think, universal commonality. And you use the word scared. Some people might say fear. I do believe that there is a subtle difference between the two. But there is this notion around fear that paralyzes a lot of people, right? Fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of not getting it right. All of these type of things. For you, when you had to, in order to make this leap, in order to make this jump, you had to face your fear. And oftentimes there's something that becomes greater than the fear itself in order to push forward. What was that for you?
I think it was the impact. I think it was the excitement I got, the fulfillment I got from service. And if I'm honest with you, the further I went up the corporate ladder, the less away I went from service. And I was more into, you said ROI, NOI, like I was more working based on everybody else's ROI, NOI, their mission statement, their vision statement, their core, which again, gosh, I did love that until I loved this more.
Right.
And the messages in my inbox were very different than the Ministry of Health, like shutting down a long-term care home because there was an abuse case, right? Like that was stressful. That you talk about hard, you talk about stress, you talk about not wanting to open your inbox. Like there's real stuff that's keeping people like in this state of paralyzed. That's their career. And it's like, how do I even edge out of that? So I think for me, I never would have edged out of it if it wasn't for Jamie going first. I thought that it was totally beneath me to try and do anything outside of my career. If I'm honest, I was like, who am I to start that? I was like, I can't even spell the word entrepreneur, right? Like, I was like, I've been an employee since I was 13 with 19 name badges. Like, yeah, I like my name badge. I like my key card. Like that was habit. That was like, like, and I mean, gosh, like you've grown up with entrepreneurial families. Like I did too. Like my whole family's amazing. There are like so many entrepreneurs in my family, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, like parents, like I did have like these great examples, but I still, like also stayed so small in the employment sector because that's where I felt I fit. If that makes sense. Like I felt like, well, that's what I'm good enough to do. Like I wouldn't say, so I think the switch was number one, I really found my calling. I love Jay Shetty's analogy of Dharma, right? The Dharma is when it's like, you couldn't imagine doing anything else. Jamie always says to me, he's like, if we had millions and millions and millions of dollars in the bank, I was like, I would still do what I do. Yeah. I would still do what I do. I'm so obsessed with helping other women be so lit with their life that I never want to stop. Like, I don't want to stop that. So that was the switch. The switch was that I was like, I could eat, sleep, and breathe. Like like you mentioned, we all have the same 24 hours a day. I could work for 24 hours. I am that in love with it. But I have to shut it off. Like, and that's not everybody, and that's okay. And it doesn't have to be that way in order to be successful. But it's like, you do kind of have to get obsessed with what you're doing in order to scale massively.
Totally.
Instead of just dabbling.
And I mean, but you nailed it on the head. It's like at that point, you take pleasure in the work, and I mean, there is a fine line where some days it doesn't feel like work. And you're like, this is amazing that I actually get to call this work and it doesn't feel like work because I love it. But that's not every day. There are days and weeks where it's like, holy shit, this is a lot of work, but you can find pleasure in it. You can find pleasure in the hard because you're so anchored in to what makes you dance inside, right? Like you're anchored in and on the other side of that hard, and this is what I was saying before, everything worth it, whatever it is in life for you, is on the other side of hard, whether it's leading and helping other women, millions of women. I'm sure that's on your vision board. I don't need to see your vision board to know that like there's probably millions upon millions of women that Kim Fitzpatrick wants to lit right up. So I imagine that that's on there, to the body that you want, and not just outside, but like how you want to feel inside. None of these changes come without the hard, without putting in the effort, the time, and the work. And it's not a rainbow the whole time. I say all the time, entrepreneurship is the hardest thing that you're ever going to do. And for the life of me, there's some days where I'm like, why am I choosing this again? As I'm sure for you must go through that as well. I've never met an entrepreneur that's like, no, I just love every single day. And it's just this rainbow, right?
And it's work for sure. I get that. I agree with you. I always say like, there's two truths, right? About entrepreneurship. Like you will have amazing days and you will have the hardest days you've ever experienced.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the yin and the yang, right? That is for every positive, you're also going to have a negative. And that is like the balance in life and the polarity as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And the more as well, like the more you're tapped into this and you're aware, it's oftentimes, and I'm sure, you've experienced this, and people just go, I mean, I don't know, we could pick something. Okay, let's pick something for you. You announced yesterday or this morning that you got a call for something amazing on your vision board that we're going to find out in June, which this episode might be dropping a couple of weeks before you make this announcement. So like definitely make sure you're following Kim Fitzpatrick, because she's going to be announcing some blow up on her vision board that she's been writing down in her journal, reminding yourself of practically every day. Yeah. Oftentimes when we experience these tremendous highs of like success, whether it's in your business, your marriage, your kids, like it could be a dream trip of a lifetime, hitting a milestone goal, it's oftentimes met with this ultra low that comes to meet you, to challenge you, to rock you. And the more you're aware of that, I had this just happen to me. Like I launched my podcast a few weeks back, right, on March 20th. And literally 1 week later, I had so much traumatic stuff happen in that one day. And I just, rather than react to the situation that was going on and allow my emotions to go into it, which would have been warranted, I stood back and I'm like, this is just the yin and yang of life. And I'm recognizing this, and rather than allowing it to take me out of my zone of genius, out of like the position I'm supposed to be in, I'm going to see it and acknowledge it, but I'm going to continue to ride this wave of greatness, of success, the momentum, the happiness, and the high. Do you experience that? Like when you have these like ultra highs, that something challenging kind of comes out from the bottom like that?
I mean, if I'm honest with you, the last 5 months have been the hardest 5 months of my entire life. And, that happened the day after my book launched.
There you go. Right.
And I've had low days and I've had great days. And I love what you just said, Shae. You hit the nail on the head. Who says this? I forget the name of it. I forget the name of whose quote this is. It's not my quote. And I will try and find it, but it says, the greatest truth about life is that life is difficult. And once you transcend that thought, it doesn't have a hold on you anymore, because you tend to be able to handle what unfolds for you, because it's not good or bad. It just is data. And it saved me, because instead of me thinking that this is this like, my life's over, this is so hard, like, no, it's not. Like I love the analogy of like, this is unfolding for you. And if something's happening for you in your life, there's a reason why. Totally. And what I'll tell you is like, I had to keep going. One of my dearest friends, she's like, Kim, you've had more things that have happened for you in your personal life than anyone has ever had in their entire life. And you just keep going. And I'm like, because what's the alternative?
Totally.
It doesn't mean every day is rainbows and unicorns. Some days I'm crying during my workout.
Yeah.
But what do I do? So a couple things. Number one is I leaned into getting extra help. I had I increased my executive business coaching. I increased my therapy appointment. I love what you said, Shae. It really inspired me that you're like, no, I'm boundaried in my morning routine. I'm boundaried in this. Like, I need to do that because when my life gets rocked, I notice what goes out the window is for me sometimes is like creating space for me. And what I noticed is I've been so overscheduled this, right? Think about it, trip after trip after trip, which has been amazing, but that's not what I want.
Right.
And it's been awesome. But what this time has taught me through trauma and chaos and navigating heavy, dark, deep feelings is I'm getting really clear on what I want. So that's been the gift in all this. So I can go from like achieving this big goal. The other thing I love about this idea, and I'd love to give this to offer this to a lot of you, is that you have to have your next goal on the horizon. Because if your end goal, your mountain that you're climbing, I want to tell you that every goal you achieve is only moving you closer to the next version of you required.
Totally.
So I have stopped being married to the goal. I see that and I'm looking at it right now and I'm like, and now I have, because that's not coming till June, but now I have my next focus.
Yeah.
And that's helping me not get, because I'm never not climbing.
Yeah.
And that I hope doesn't sound exhausting to people. But what I mean by that is that could just be like, okay, I'm going to have the best physical transformation of my life after this because I'm really honing in on my macros. I'm really getting clear on my strength training. I'm going to deadlift. So I'm always kind of working in duality of like personal goals to professional goals. And my personal goals always keep me in check with my professional goals because my personal goals are never at the pinnacle.
Totally.
Because I'm always in process. So that's helped me a lot. Instead of being deflated, I'm more like, oh, but wait, there's this. Oh, but wait, there's this. And that's given me a bit of balance versus that deflation.
Totally. And, as you were, kind of talking about what is the alternative, like in going through a challenge and like life is difficult and it is, life has never promised to be fair. It's never promised to be easy. And it's really the contrary, right? That it is difficult. And I was probably 19 when my pastor, I was living in Hawaii at the time. And my pastor, I was 19 or 20. He said this on the stage once. He said, in every circumstance in life, you either have two choices. You either become bitter or you become better. That's it. And that has stuck with me. I'm 38 now. That has stuck with me for basically 20 years of my life. And I say it often to people. No matter what comes your way, you have two responses that you're in control of. You are in control of. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control your response. You might not control your reaction right away, but take a step back, have a moment to breathe, and then you are in the driver's seat. You get to take control of what your response is now going to be. And it will be just those two. You either become bitter and it's going to derail you off of everything you've worked for. It might set you back 5 years. It might completely destroy your life, depending on what it is. Or you choose to see that this is happening for you and not happening to you. And you choose to become better and you choose to rise. And as you said, what's the alternative? There is no plan B. There is no other way except to become better, to say, thank you for this challenge. Watch me crush it. And you have to move forward. Is it easy? No. Do you go through it fist fighting, crying? Sometimes I have to laugh through it. It's like the only thing I can do is like, this is so fucking comical. Like how, of course this is happening to me right now. And you can get upset, but that's not going to change it. Right? Like putting your energy into anger is not going to change it. So literally sometimes I even flip it and I just go, hysterical. Thank you. Okay. Where's the lesson? I'm going to learn it. I'm pushing through it. And you have to continue to move forward. Right? There's no alternative. Like you said.
I love that. I have a lot of humor through life. Like I think I'm so funny. And that has been like, I think I'm hilarious. Like, and I will spend more time laughing through a joke before I ever get to the punchline. That's what makes it funny. But it's like, if you don't have joy and you don't have play and you don't have that ease, you will be so uptight, right? And I loved what you said about there's two. I actually love that saying too. You either get better or you get better. I say it all the time. And I too have had that in my head and my heart for a long, long time. And the one thing I think that's important to remember is that, you know, your thoughts control your feelings control your actions control your results. And if your thoughts are derailed, your feelings will be derailed. If your feelings are derailed, you will sit in paralysis. You will sit in trauma, right? I always say procrastination locks my trauma. Action unlocks it, right? So it's like, what can you take action on right now? You know, and what does that look like? And where's the clarity piece on that? And that's why I'm so passionate about my journal and why I'm so passionate about vision and your future self, which I think confuses some people until they start to think about it and they start bawling because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so underwhelmed and I love the front work of the journal because you're actually assessing every aspect of your life and your satisfaction in it. And a lot of people don't even think to do that because it's not a wide open lens, right? We're all looking okay, I'm going to get through my to-do list. I'm getting through my to-do list. Boom, bottle of wine. Friday night. Okay, whoosh, made it through that, right? And it's this habitual thing. And that's not everybody, but it certainly used to be me. So I share that from my experience. And when I started to kind of open that up, take the blinders off, and I start to think about how do I want to feel in my relationships? How do I want to feel in my career? What do my finances look like? You know, what's my financial literacy? What's my inner and outer body feeling like, saying, looking like, you know, there's so much work to be done. And it's all, you know, emotional weight is heavy, sisters. Yeah. Emotional weight's heavy. And, you know, that's what I feel like I'm chipping away at right now. And that's one thing I'll control for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You know, and again, I know it's funny. I wasn't really planning on kind of talking about morning routine stuff with you when I was thinking about like, you know, what do I want to talk with Kim about today? But this is the importance of the daily. And this is why I'm so guarded with my mornings, because I say this often, your day, your morning and your evenings are the bookends to your day. I can't control what happens in the middle of my day, but I can control how it starts and I can control how it ends. And so those are very guarded for me in that sense, because I want to make sure not just that I'm showing up to serve the world. Like, you know, like you said, I use that motto as well. Like the best version of me gets built in the morning so that then I can show up and I can serve my clients. I can serve the rest of the world with the best version of Shae. But the other part that's really important, that you can get clear on what you want. You can, and I say oftentimes that goals without tangible action and a plan is just a wish. It's just a dream. So to move that, it's not just about having a vision board that you create, hopefully in December, not January. Like you want to start the year fresh and in it, but you've got a vision board, you've got maybe a plan. But if you're not revisiting that all the time, consistently, and all the time doesn't mean every single second, every single day, but there's a consistency factor. And what I love about your journal, Kim, is at the top of it here, it says, I've read my vision statement and vision board, you know, and it's talking about our thoughts. This is so nuts. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day who is going down his own rabbit hole. And I feel like I'm kind of teaching him of ABCs right now with our thoughts. We have over 70,000 thoughts a day. And of those 70,000 thoughts, scientists say, the research says that we have basically the same 95% thoughts every single day. So if you think that one day you're just going to wake up and everything you felt the day before, good, bad, you know, the negative talk that you're talking about to yourself is going to change, it's probably not going to. The probability says you're going to stay in that zone, whatever zone that is. And that's for me why I love the power of coming to my book, coming to my journal, coming to the practice of writing. And I have a different journal that I have my top 10 things that I want to focus on, my goals. And some of them are for this year, but I also have a 10-year plan. And then I have a 5-year benchmark. And I have, what now do I need to do in the next 12 months to move the needle in that direction to get to where I want to go? If you don't have that action plan broken down where you're reminding yourself at least once a week of that, and those thoughts, this is what I love. When you put the pen to paper, the chemistry, the science, not typing, actual pen to paper, it releases in your brain the chemicals that your brain doesn't understand. We don't know. And this is unbelievable, right? We don't know the difference between what is real and what's not, what's happened and what's not. So whatever you focus on, and this is why you hear people say all the time, people like yourself, people like me, what you focus on grows. Because those thoughts, your brain doesn't know what the difference is. And so it is so important of coming daily, at least weekly, but if you can get into a daily routine of coming to pen and paper through a journal, and if it's not Be Her Now, you can go anywhere, go on Amazon, it'll be at your house tomorrow, pick a journal. I've got one on you can go on my Instagram. I'm going to put yours in mine, but I have one on my Instagram. You can click the link in my bio, and it's my favorite gratitude journal right now. Until this, I know I'm going to be starting this tomorrow. I'm really excited. But it is the importance of why you're coming to that practice. So that you can start to change those thoughts. Right. In order to change how you feel, in order to have a different action result, in order to take different action, you have to change your thoughts. You went through that beautifully. And it's so important to be doing.
100%. And that's why it's so repetitive. Like my best results in my company, in my success, in my financial security comes from when I'm in action with this journal. My journal has been in action with me for 4 years.
Yeah.
I just published it. So because it's been something that's been on, and then, it just timing wise. So, there's keys to success, right? And I think it's so important to remember that it's also very rooted in NLP, like neuro linguistic pathways. Like you are what you repeatedly do. You are what you visualize. You are what you think about. What you think about, you bring about. Like, I'm hugely into Abraham Hicks, Wayne Dyer, the greats. Like, it's just like, I infuse my life with that. John Maxwell. I mean, gosh, I could list them all off. Right. So I'm surrounded by them in my office. Right. I'm actually just finishing my designation as an executive business coach, internationally certified. So it's like, I'm constantly in growth, right? I'm constantly in that mode. So I think, as someone that has been a lifelong learner, as someone that is, had to really pivot multiple times in her life, I just want to give you all permission that, you are by what you repeatedly do. And, I will tell you how successful you are based by the top 5 conversations that are in your text thread right now, your inbox and your messages, and your inbox and your email. Like it is the 5 people that you're surrounding yourself with. It's what you're consuming. It's also your history browser on your, Instagram. Like where are you, who are you surrounding yourself with? Like you have to guard that, and I want to just be this driving reminder for women, Shae, that is like, no, you can't, when you know better, you do better. So we have to govern ourselves that way. Right. And it does take work and effort, and not every day is going to be perfect. And that's okay. It's like, you have to adopt the philosophy of psychological flexibility to be like, how do I navigate this dance each day today? I'm not as rigid as you are, Shae, with my morning routine. I can't be right now. My life as a trauma survivor and a trauma recoverer, I'm getting there, but it's done in like the most cool pockets, right? Like my Be Her Now journal comes with me wherever I am. So I don't have to be in the same place, the same space, the same candle on, the same, so it's just a reminder to all of you that this can look your way. And that any morning routine has to be done based by what feels good to you. And you need to figure that out. You need to figure out, hey, this works for me today. This works for me, and try it. Like Shae said, like I literally have hundreds of journals. I started at the Start Today journal, was one of my biggest things through the Hollis company, right? That was something that really started my journal. And I would literally write down all my 10 dreams, all my 10 dreams, all my 10 dreams. And guess what? they're all coming true.
Hmm.
I'm going to say that again. They're all coming true.
I love that.
Like I wake up every morning skipping down the stairs being like, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm open. Like,
Yes.
bring it. And in order to arrive there, which has taken me years, you have to get gritty with your gratitude, and you have to get clear in your vision, and you have to start being that person that you say you want to be and act as her now. Chase that future self.
And, you know, I think you bring up a good point, and it is a reminder that also like what I do does not mean that it is the right way. Like people hear it, and I'll tell you right now, like my best girlfriend, she's got 5 kids. She'll tell me, yeah, you can do your mornings that way because you don't got 5 people. Yeah. And you're right. I don't. And I don't have 2. I don't even have 1. So like my mornings look very different. And there's 2 things. The point is you need to be able to show up for yourself and create guarded time. That's not mommy with kids time, not like wife or like husband partner time. You need your own solitude time. And even if that's only 10 minutes, you bang it out in the solid most 10 focused minutes where you gotta be with yourself, right? And that could be after you drop your kids off at school, that you stay outside that parking lot for an extra 10 minutes and you bring your journal in the car and you put on your tunes, you put on whatever brings you inward. You do a meditation that's 3 minutes, 2 minutes, doesn't need to be 15, 25 minutes, right? Yeah. Like you've got to scale it so that it works for you. And also giving yourself, you said permission, but also the grace that how you're doing it right now, it could change next week. You might have 30 minutes and now you only have 12. And it could change in a year from now as well. And there's no rhyme that's like, you have to do this certain way for this certain period of time. Life is going to do life. And this is part of like being in the flow of it, but still being able to show up to serve yourself. Because if you're not serving you, you don't have an overflowing cup. And you know this. This is part of not losing yourself, right? This is part of not losing yourself in the pursuit to fill everybody else up. As passionate as you might be about that, and as much as that gives you joy, when you start depleting your own self for the sake of filling other people up, that will only last for so long. And so this reminder that you are your first most important client always. As a mom, as a kid, as a partner, because when you do you first, everybody else benefits from that. And that's the true service, right? Is serving yourself first so that you can go and serve other people. Kim, you and I could talk forever and ever. And I can't wait to have you back. We've got something special coming up next month on the podcast that you're going to be a part of. You're on the Freedom CEO podcast for a reason. And so I want to ask you, as a CEO, but as a person who takes ownership over their decisions in their life, how has that brought you freedom?
Oh, I love this question. So a couple of things. Number one, taking radical ownership of my life set me free. And, you know, I always say now, like, I was an incredible employee. And I learned this from Robin Sharma, if I'm honest. Robin Sharma said, you know, you have to do everything in first class. So whatever you go and be first class in that. Right. So, and that's like what you expect when you're sitting in first class. You expect the best. You expect honesty and positivity and radiating joy. And, you know, and again, that doesn't mean you're always going to be that way, but can you try to apply the best that you can? And that's what freedom has looked like for me, is I decided to take radical ownership of who I am, how I show up. One of the best compliments I get is how present I am and how much I'm the same person on social media as I am as I am in person. Like what you see is what you get. There is no difference, right? How I lead and build my coaching business out and how I serve and support women as I'm mentoring them and leading them is exactly how I am, like in the flesh, you know, as if we're like going out for dinner. I'd be like, okay, tell me your life. Like, let's go. Like, right? Like it's something that I have a passion for. It's in my essence. And I believe that when you step into your purpose, I believe that when you step into your passion, I believe that when you step into who you authentically are, success will chase you down.
Totally.
Income chases joy, right? Income chases joy. Success chases ease. I will tell you right now, I have no idea how much money I made this week, but I know how many people I served. And that's my barometer, because I want to serve millions of people. And that's freedom to me, because I'm not chasing millions of dollars. I'm chasing so much impact. And when you do that, you reach this level of frequency that people can't wait to be a part of, because it's your essence.
Totally.
So as you step into your essence, as you figure out who you are at your creators, like I could just like go on forever about this, Shae, because it's like, you got to crack you open. You got to surrender. And when I surrendered to the shackles and the stitching, that's why I have a thread and needle on every page of the bottom of human connection in my journal. And I have a tattoo right here that matches that thread and needle that is embedded in my journal. You are stitched with everybody else's opinion from the minute you are freaking born, and you are conditioned by everybody else's patchwork quilt. And your job and freedom to me is unstitching every other thing that doesn't flow with you. And when you do that, you will start to create your own quilt. And when you create your own quilt, people will absolutely be paying attention.
God, what a powerful way to close out this conversation, Kim. Thank you for being you, number one. And I can attest, who you see on Instagram and who Kim is in person is the same. So I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. I'm going to have you back, because we should just have a topic conversation on just what you said. Like, that is a whole episode on its own. So I'm going to be connecting you guys with Kim in all of the links, show notes. So make sure if you don't already follow Kim, to do so. You will find tremendous value and daily inspiration. And if you want her to be your coach, she is definitely first class and filled with extra, extra love. So go connect with her, flip her a DM. She responds as well in her DMs. Can attest to that as well. So so much love to you. Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to have you back already.
Thanks, Shae.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review, as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shae Vidyata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.